Welcome back to Crispy's Projects, and the postman's been, and part of this T5 lighting upgrade, he's brought me some fog lights. So as you can see, this is for the early T5, which mine is. So they actually replaced that housing there, and as you can see, I've got a slightly different lower spoiler, which is all part of the bodywork project. And I've also took the lip out there that was in there, so it smooths off the lines nicely. Let's have a look what's in the box. So straight away they feel quite cheap and quite flimsy. Oh, and that's nicely glued in, which is going to help me because I'm going to have to paint these, so that should be quite easy to remove. And it's a couple of LEDs, so it's a ring LED and a projector. So it's not an amazing fit round there. Might have to warm that up, just to pull it out a little bit. Doesn't need much. And it's the same with the other side. So you can see how these replace the factory ones. Compare the factory one, that's also got a little bit of flex on there. Let's have a look at the wiring kit that comes with it. It's got a basic relay, a fuse, and a bedside lamp and switch. I must have found them cheap. So the relay must sit in the engine bay. 2 battery terminals. There are your fog light switches, so I'm going to check those out. And 1 switch, which I'm going to guess is the relay. That's enough for it to go all the way into the vehicle. And I'm guessing to run off a positive feed. And it hasn't come out too bad considering. So I've got 1 big run there. There's still a bit of a shine on it. A couple of little dust marks here and there, which is to be expected. But realistically, I'm quite happy with that, because the van is back. So I'm going to do the fog light wiring while it's apart, and then I'm going to build it up, and then we're actually going to run through this and get rid of the paint runs. So part of the deal with the van was the guy was going to paint it, we were going to film bits of it, but as it turned out we didn't film any of it, and this is how I've got it back, which is exactly what I wanted. I wanted it runs and all, so I could go through and do all the refinishing work. Well, as you might be able to see, they haven't come out too bad considering what they started off like. There's a few little imperfections here, just a little bit of dust, nothing to worry about, but I'm going to let that cure a good couple of days before I even think about tackling that. But between now and then I can get these back in. So I've pulled them out, so you can just see that is hot glue gun which is applied, and to be honest it didn't take much to take them off. So the main reason is the back end wasn't keyed, it was just straight onto the plain plastic. So what could have happened if they would have keyed it in properly, that hot glue would have had somewhere to stick to. But I'm going to ditch that, I'm going to take that bit of hot glue off. It's just going to peel off anyway, as you can see there. And I'm going to bond it in with some 1K. Slight change of tactic, I've pulled away some of that glue just to give it somewhere to go, because I realised if I was to just put it straight through, there's a good chance it would all fall through, and this as it is just gives it a little bit of a guide, otherwise it will fall through and look all uneven. So I'm going to utilise what I've got already. So I'm just going to put some little blobs just around the edge and bond it in, and I've cleaned that off with alcohol wipe. With the wiring as it's arrived, so it's not particularly great, I'll give it that. It's functional, but it's not phenomenal. It has got a relay, which is a great thing about having a relay in there. The ampage that's designed for the switch is probably more than that, and that's supposed to be a 40 amp relay, but yet these cables will never supply 40 amps. So I might jib off most of this. But we'll run through the wiring as if you were to fit it normally. That's supposed to go onto your battery terminal. It's got a fuse built in. It's got a relay and then a feed wire which, looking at the diagram, I am gonna guess it's possibly a positive feed, described as a light switch. Where are we? 250 volts. Yep, a light switch ready, which is right. It's not long enough, so we look at the distance there. It's got a meter just about, and it's probably about this much too short, and that's with your wires fully stretched out. I've got a little light switch inside to turn them on and off. I don't think I'll be using that. And there's no wiring for the side lights, so I'm going to have to run wires from the side lights anyway. So before I pick what sort of wiring it is, I'm going to do a little amp current draw just to see how much ampage it draws out, so I know exactly what wiring to have. So I can measure amps on this one, so I'm rated up to 10 amps, being LED. I hope it's less than that. And we're on. So 0.10, so even less than half an amp. Right, so I've stripped down the wiring over this side just to double check its side light. It is a grey and a black on there. If I just put my power probe to it, I can see it's earthed. I actually know that it is the right one. I'm able to supply 12 volts to it. I've got some speaker cable. It's essentially speaker cable that's rated at 15 amps. It's got good flexibility, it's got a thicker sidewall, so I'm going to give everything its own earth and only have one wire going in. So I'm going to feed in the side light from this side, because we've got the little ring lights around the outside. I'm going to run all the wiring across and take an independent earth from the chassis leg, just because I think that's best practice. So I'm going to run the other side light feed from further up the wire, so it's going to be the same feed that runs to the other side, same as running wiring all the way down, which is going to make it look untidy. And we've already worked out that the ampage draw from that is so little, it's not going to affect the circuit. So we're going to splice into it. If you're ever splicing in, got to be ever so careful, because the last thing you want to do is damage one of the wires in there. So it's a case of seeing where you can see the two ridges of the two wires being just sat proud. Go in the middle. And again, these wire strippers, they're sort of like auto wire strippers. If for really small wires, you just need to give a little bit of pressure on the top. But yeah, they're brilliant for just stripping back the wires without cutting them. Now, instead of looking the side light, I've left the door open, so the buzzer should go on for the side lights being on. Yeah, and I know it's the same colour wire because it's the same loom. And do the same thing. Now really I am using black wire and I should be using red wire, but I've got loads of black left over because I've used a load of red on the Corrado project, which is a TDI swap. So let's wire that in. That's a fairly good solder. You can see it's penetrated all the way through, and best tape it up while it's still warm. Tape goes on so much better. So here, and there is a chassis earth there, so we're going to run the earth from there. It's going to keep it a lot tidier, and then I'm going to run a single wire from the inside for the fog light, probably through most of this that I can actually get it through. We'll just use that on, and not too tight. And there we've got a bit of an earth feed. So it might actually be long enough looking at it. It might be actually. I didn't plan it to be long enough. Lot VW, where the main engine wiring loom comes through, I'd normally got a little auxiliary, little holes ready for you to put in extra things. They're just really hard to find. So pull the airbox out, obviously. See one of those there. Just gonna cut the end off and feed the wire through. So I fed in a load of there. Now this is 10 amp cable. Considering I'm just going to be running the two fog lights, that is about half an amp at maximum. So the cable wiring, I've actually took all this off, so I've got to pull that off to access one of the screws. There's a screw there, 3 underneath there, one. Actually I had to pull that off to access another screw behind. Oh, actually to pull that out. I'm sure it'll all go back, but mainly wiring loom comes through there. So it's just at the top there behind that relay box, and the wire has just come through there, so I can see that. So I'm going to pull it up and through. Kept it away from the steering column, brought enough cable to reach the back of the switch. It's only got rear fog light, hasn't got the front fog light. So what we'll do is we'll just leave it long enough here, probably put an inline fuse in there. I'm just running the cable in inside there, so just pulling the cowling open and just shoving it in. Reminds me, I best change that air filter. So it's all back together. It was a little bit fiddly around there, particularly the T-piece behind there, but with all these unclipped from there, it's able to move it round, feed the wire through. So we've got the earth, what's going to be the switch live, or the one that's got to switch on the fog lights. It's come down to here, so that's those two wires. We've got these ones from the other side, which is going to be side light and a fog light, and there's going to be a shared earth on there, however I'm going to wire it. So I'm ready to put the bumper back on. Just put some solder on there. That's just to bulk it up because these are really thin wires. I want to make sure it gets really good contact on these. Now we've got all them lined up, so that's going to be the common earth, that's the fog light positive on mine, and this is the side light. And this is my darling daughter giving me a lollipop. Thank you very much, darling. Side lights on, power probe to the wire inside. Well, that's those working. As per normal, I will leave some links in the description below of anything I find useful, including links to these. I'm still 50-50 whether the whole kit is really worth it or whether there's a cheaper way of going around it. So feel free to go and check out some of the other videos that are also in this sort of series of tarting up the T5, as I'll call it. Let's get on with wiring the inside. So we take the light switch out by pushing it in, turning it to side lights, and then pulling it. And that alters these little locking pins. So we're going to pull that through. There's my wire, and we want the second from the end that's next to the grey and green. So I've pulled a wire the right size out of another set of loom that I've had, and we're going to put it into position number 8. It is just simple. Push in and it's in and located. So we're going to join those two up. There's the fairly standard one, which I don't really like using, and then there's this version that's got heat shrink on, which is far better. Can use pliers for these. So I'm just going to insert that in there. And with these we've got a section there for insulated and non-insulated. So we're going to go for the insulated, and that just gives it and just crushes it down. For tug test to make sure it doesn't come out, which is a good chance it's not going to come out in a month's time when you're trying to diagnose what's going on. And now that they're nice and secure, we're going to heat shrink these. So nice low heat, you want to do it ever so gently. You can do it with a hot air gun, and the hairdryer doesn't quite do it hot enough. And a nice slow gentle heat. And we're going to check all the lights now, make sure it works. We can just about see the green light come on there. So that's another job done, and I'm quite happy with the results. To be honest, it looks a lot better. Now, if I was doing it again, I would not buy the complete kit because it's pretty much pants. I would actually just buy the spotlights on their own and wire it all up. And you don't really need a relay with these LED ones because there's only about half an amp current draw on each of the circuits. Hope you found that useful. Please check out some of the links in the description below. And let me know if you're doing the same conversion, whether you're doing anything slightly different. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Ta-da!